Alrighty, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. You're watching Nwadei MMA, the daily series where I give you my thoughts, but more importantly, ask for yours. By the way guys, if you are new to the channel, I am coming out with a podcast which will be revealed in the near future. It'll somewhat replace this talk show. However, I still will be dropping individual videos like this one as well. And with that being said, if you are new to the channel, I'm about 100% in my breakdowns, about 70% as far as predictions are concerned. So if you are new to the channel, welcome to the Nwadei MMA breakdown. The way I like to do things here is I like to break down each fighter based off of their past fights and their styles going into those fights, and I match them up with each other, and then I give you my official prediction. However, this is a very stacked card. There's a lot of fights on this card, and I don't want you guys to be waiting too long before you get to my predictions. Therefore, I'm going to give you my quick picks for the early prelims. I'll go a little bit more in depth for the prelims, and then the main card I will break down in full. Now, with that being said, thank you guys for stopping by my video today. If you are looking forward to daily MMA content and in-depth fight analysis, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Let's go ahead and get right into the video. Alrighty guys, so again, for these early prelims, I will not be giving you a full breakdown. I will just be running through these picks because there's a lot of fights that we have to get to. So with that being said, the first fight on the card in the lightweight division between Kamala Kirks and Esteban Ribovics. I'm choosing Esteban Ribovics. The next fight between Shannon Ross and Jesus Aguilar. I'm choosing Jesus Aguilar. I believe this is a little bit of a setup fight for him. In the bantamweight division between Cameron Simon and Terrence Mitchell. Terrence Mitchell is taking this one on short notice. Cameron Simon is very good coming out of South Africa, undefeated. I've doubted him before and he's proved me wrong. I'm going Cameron Simon. In the light heavyweight division between Victor Petrino and Marcin Prachnio, I'm going with Victor Petrino. He's 10 years younger, has a lot less weathering under him. Prachnio has been in the UFC longer. However, in this stance, I believe that youth beats experience. I think that Petrino will go ahead and get the finish. And in the last fight on the early prelims, I'm going with Tatsuro Taira over Edgar Chairez. Tatsuro Taira is a phenom both in grappling and in striking, and in just mixing it all together. With 13 fights, it seems like he has almost 30 fights of experience because of just how good he is and how well he mixes it together. I'm sure he had a bunch of amateur fights and fights that we don't know about coming from the part of the world that he comes from. However, Tatsuro Taira is one to be on the watch for. That's probably going to be performance of the night bonus, so make sure you guys check that one out. Now, moving on to the prelims. Now we're getting a little bit more into detail. We got Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menefield. This is the rematch between them. In the first fight, they just banged it out, slugged it out. I thought Jimmy Crute was going to win that one a little bit more handily. However, it ended up going to a draw because Jimmy Crute just couldn't stay patient. He couldn't stay composed, and he ended up getting into a firefight with a guy you don't want to get into a firefight with. Who do I think is more skilled? I think Jimmy Crute has the bigger toolbox and more ways to win, but of course Alonzo Menefield has that power as an X factor, and he ended up putting it to the test in the last matchup, getting the draw with Jimmy Crute. However, this time around, I think Jimmy Crute's going to be a little bit more patient. I think he's going to use his wrestling more effectively and his ground game more wisely, and I think that he should be getting the win in this one. Next, we have a women's strawweight fight between Yasmin Yargui versus Denise Gomez. Yasmin Yargui is a freaking animal in that strawweight division. I'm not even too familiar with her opponent in Denise, but I know that Yargui is a monster, and I'm gonna go with her. So if you guys trust my opinion, then you guys can go ahead and make a pick on that as well. They are both coming off of a knockout victory, and it should be a really fun fight. The next fight on the card, and a fight that I am very interested in watching, and you should be too, Jack Della Maddalena versus Josiah Harrell. Jack Della Maddalena was supposed to be fighting Sean Brady on this card, another wrestler who ended up pulling out last second due to various injuries. Josiah Harrell is a wrestler himself. He's a finisher himself. He's about 5'6" in the welterweight division. Very thick and big and strong. I believe his nickname is the Muscle Hamster. So that should give you a good representation of who he is. He's a guy who likes to burrow forward with overhands and hooks, get into those wrestling exchanges, and end up kind of fatiguing your opponent until he ends up getting the finish. However, Jack Della Maddalena, I think he was already preparing for a wrestler, so it's not much of a switch for him. Maybe this guy's a little bit more dangerous with the hands than Sean Brady was, and a little bit more forward pressure than Sean Brady was giving. However, Jack Della Maddalena is an absolute animal with his boxing exchanges. He's not going to give him many opportunities to take him down. He's a hard guy to take down, and with him not throwing too many kicks, I think it'll be even harder to take him down, because Jack Della Maddalena really does like boxing, and if you start figuring out one stance, he'll switch to the next. Another thing he will do very well is he's probably going to chop the lead leg, I would assume. If he does throw any kicks, I wouldn't expect him to go high with any kicks, because those are easier to catch, and I see Jack Della Maddalena getting this one done. If you want a little bit of a more accurate prediction, I would take the under 2.5 rounds for this fight. Both of these guys come to fight, they both come to finish. One's taking it on short notice. They're both animals. You should take the under. Next, Robbie Lawler's last fight going against Niko Price. Robbie Lawler is the better technician, the better boxer. Niko Price is a little bit more spazzy. Big heart from him. He's always going to keep coming forward. He can fight off his back. He's very scrappy off his back. He's going to throw elbows, but I don't see Robbie Lawler taking this one to the ground. I think it's going to be a stand-up dog fight between these two guys, and I see Robbie Lawler going out with a win, to be honest. I think he's just more technical. He rolls with his shots better. He doesn't get hit as clean as Niko Price does. Niko Price has been put in a lot of trouble in his career just by the way he leaves himself open and doesn't get his hands back to his face, and I think that'll get him into trouble in this one as well, and I can see Robbie Lawler winning this one, if not by decision, then in a late stoppage. Next fight on the card, Bo Nickal versus Valente Woodburn. Bo Nickal was supposed to fight Tresean Gore, in which this is a fight I was almost expecting him to win. Maybe weather some of the big shots early, wrestle Tresean Gore, get him tired like he's gotten tired in the past. However, this is a bit of a different fight for him, and this is one that is going to give him tests. However, one that he should come out on top with. Now, from what I've seen so far, it looks like Bo Nickal has better striking than this guy. This guy's very right hand heavy. He's very short and stocky, which is going to be a hard guy to wrestle, because I believe he does have a wrestling background as well. He tends to kind of bombard his opponents to the cage, keep a collar tie, and just keep swinging with his right hand, almost like just a fatiguing kind of fight style. Obviously, he's very stocky and very powerful, so he has a lot of power in these shots that he could break you down with. However, a guy of Bo Nickal's stature, a guy who is that high level in wrestling, I would expect that he would actually be able to take him down and out-scramble him. However, I don't know if he's going to want to expend that kind of energy. I'll probably assume that this one stays on the feet, and Bo Nickal's going to try and pick him apart from the outside. A lot of teep kicks would be very beneficial for Bo Nickal. High kicks would be beneficial because he's shorter. Uppercuts, dipping off to the side, keeping that head off the center line, circling to his right away from the power side of Woodburn would be very beneficial. Bo Nickal, this is going to be the time where we see his striking. If Bo Nickal's striking isn't shit, we're going to see it in this fight, because it's going to be a wacky one to see. However, I think Bo Nickal is sharp. I think that he is everything everyone is saying. I don't think they should be moving him super fast. I think that the experience that he's getting is very, very good for a guy who's 4 fights in his professional career. I think he's being built correctly. I think this is a good opponent for him to allow him to show different things, and I think Bo Nickal should, hopefully, end up getting the win. So we'll see what happens there. I expect that this one will actually be a good amount of a dog fight, a little bit, but I can see Bo Nickal getting it done in the second round, if not the first, like he's finished his other opponents. Now, Jalin Turner versus Dan Hooker. This is going to be a very fun fight. 2 very long guys for the weight class. Dan Hooker's like 6 foot, 6'1". Jalen Turner's 6'3". Both giant guys for this weight class. Jalin Turner's been training a lot with Khamzat Chimaev. He's been working a lot on his wrestling and his grappling, and for a long guy to have that kind of wrestling would be very devastating. Khamzat Chimaev is an example of a guy who's long, who can also wrestle, and I believe Jalin Turner is going to add that into his game in this fight. I believe that Dan Hooker is very good and well coached on the feet. He knows what he's doing on the feet, so it's not going to be an easy fight if he chooses keep this one standing, similar to a fight with Dustin Poirier and Dan Hooker. He didn't make that one easy for Dustin Poirier at all, because that one stayed on the feet for majority of the time. However, I think Jalin Turner is going to mix in the grappling. I think you can almost expect that he's going to be trying to pick up that lead leg when Dan Hooker is coming forward, because Dan Hooker is going to have to be the one to close the distance due to Jalin Turner being just a long-ass, tarantula-ass dude. Who do I see winning this fight? I think Jalin Turner is going to get this one done. Honestly, in my opinion, Jalin Turner is still on a big winning streak in this division. I thought he beat Maddalena Gamrot. I thought that the wrestling defense he showed in that match, and just the cardio and grit and everything he showed in that match is just gonna lead into this one. I thought that was a good experience for him, win or lose, and I think that he's gonna carry that momentum into this next one against Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's going through hell's road, guys. I love Dan Hooker. He's an absolute animal and an exemplary fighter, but I think that this just might be a little bit too much for him, because Jalin Turner is too an animal, and I can see Jalin Turner showcasing a good amount of grappling in this fight, taking him to the ground early, trying to wear him out, forcing him to try and get up, hopping onto a head and arm and cinching in a deep darce. I can see that happening. With that being said, I'm taking Jalin Turner. I'm not giving y'all an exact prediction. Y'all just, actually take the over 1.5 rounds, and I think y'all be safe. Next, Robert Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis. This isn't as one-sided as everyone's making it seem. Dricus du Plessis, one, he got his nose fixed. It's a different story if you're only breathing through your mouth. It's not quality air that you're getting. Mouth breathing and nose breathing are two completely different things. And what you've been seeing from Dricus du Plessis in the 3rd and 2nd rounds, that's what you should be seeing out of him in the 4th and 5th rounds. But just because of the bad air quality, he's been getting mouth breathing from the 1st round, right? So we know he could push through fatigue. We know he can fight through fatigue. He has a style that leaves him open a little bit on those linear blitzes that he does. However, this is pretty much two karate practitioners going at it. Robert Whittaker has a little bit more of a boxing heavy style than Dricus du Plessis. They both showcase kicks, they both showcase punches, they both move in that linear form. However, I believe that Robert Whittaker does have better lateral movement and does have better head kicks as well. I think that the way this fight is going to go, the keys to victory, Dricus du Plessis, he needs to lull Robert Whittaker to sleep and catch him off guard. However, setting a pace early due to his ability to fight through fatigue and due to his ability to create that chaotic pace in there and wrestle his opponents as well, I think that he needs to almost take a little bit of a Yoel Romero approach. But whenever he does find that opening, he needs to get in there guns blazing like he usually does. That works for him. It's something that works for him. Yes, he can get hurt while doing it. However, it is hard to catch someone going in with that karate blitz, that very linear switch stance kind of blitz. If he exits off of it better, it would be more suitable for him. However, he kind of just stays there as his opponents exit if he cannot get them to the fence and if he cannot start grappling with them there. On the other hand, with Robert Whittaker, his keys to victory and what he needs to do is he needs to kick Dricus's legs early and bait him into throwing that blitz and keep stepping off to the sides. He can't be going straight back with Dricus. Dricus's arms are very long. Yes, he leaves that chin up in the air, but it's almost a bait for you to kind of stop and trade with him while he hits you with those long straight punches that will hurt you. So Robert Whittaker needs to keep stepping off to the side. He needs to continue a pattern of circling left and right in order to either one, nullify those blitzes from Dricus, or two, bait him into throwing that blitz, stepping off and throwing his high kicks and throwing his hooks. A lot of hooks and high kicks. I say let Dricus do the linear movements in this fight until Dricus is hurt, until he's tired, and then Robert can start doing more of those linear movements. So I think Robert Whittaker is gonna go after the lead leg of Dricus. Even though Dricus does switch, I think that side kick to the knee is gonna be almost paramount in being able to predict when he's gonna use that forward blitz and also stopping his footwork and his stability in his legs. And I think Robert Whittaker is gonna get this one done, but not in the drastic fashion that y'all think he's gonna get it done. I think this is gonna be a brutal, hurtful war unless Robert Whittaker kind of throws out what I'm telling you early in the fight. If he comes out side kicking to the knee and using a lot of lateral movement and not letting Dricus kind of find where he is and not backing straight up, then okay, it might be an early night. But if we see Robert Whittaker, who's trying to use that linear movement, blitz in and get back out, backing up straight, then it could be a long night. However, I'm taking Whittaker in this one, and we move on to the main event in Yair Rodriguez versus Alexandre Volkanovski. If you have not already seen my full breakdown of this video, I go way more in depth than I will today. However, before I go into the main event prediction, we have the co-main event between Alexandre Pantoja and Brandon Moreno. They fought twice. Alexandre Pantoja has beaten him twice. Brandon Moreno, yes, he's a different fighter now. He is more of an adult. He has a little bit more of a fire under him. His jiu-jitsu has gotten better. He's scrappier, but at the end of the day, he's Brandon Moreno, and Alexandre Pantoja is Alexandre Pantoja. I believe that the last 2 times they went against each other, Alexandre has come up with not only the better game plans, but he's been able to bully Brandon a little bit. He's been able to hurt him first and get that forward pressure going and kind of establish his dominance earlier than Brandon has been able to establish his. Not only that, but in their second fight, with the one that actually took place in the UFC, not in the Ultimate Fighter, he was able to chop down on Brandon's lead leg, and that is a big deal when talking about this fight, because one, Alexandre Pantoja usually doesn't throw too many kicks. He's more of boxing heavy, more walks his opponents down, forces them to shoot, or gets them to the cage and shoots himself, looking for the back always. He drops that right hand multiple times in his combinations. But in this fight, he was actually chopping down Brandon's lead leg, which is bad for him because Brandon is not only a boxer and uses a lot of boxing footwork, as a lot of Mexicans do, and his style of grappling is more of a wrestle jiu-jitsu style, which means that he relies on his lead leg for a lot of shots. He used a lot of head movement into his shots, and generally when he's on top, he is in the guard, not really looking to pass, more looking to hold his opponent there, fatigue him, get him up against the cage, punch him, force him to give his back. That's kind of the style of Brandon Moreno's jiu-jitsu. And with that being said, if he doesn't have a lead leg, it makes all of that harder. It makes all that footwork harder. However, what I will say is, for Brandon Moreno to win this fight, he needs a lot of straight punches coming down the middle. He needs to be first with not only the leg kicks, but also the teep kicks down the middle, because Alexandre Pantoja does square up to his opponents a lot because he's very right hand heavy as well. He'll throw a 1-2, but the jab doesn't have much behind it. It's really just a measuring punch to land his cross, and then he'll go back to a 1-2 if you're not backing up, and then he'll also blitz you with a barrage of strikes, not really hurting you, but willing to eat one in order to get into the grappling exchanges, force you to give your back. He's really good at chaining together takedowns and getting to the back off of it, and then once he has your back, he's a very dangerous guy. I mean, his jiu-jitsu is top notch, better than Brandon Moreno's in my opinion. However, Brandon Moreno does have really good wrestling, so I can see Alexandre Pantoja actually trying to chop the legs before he ends up shooting. With that being said, I'm taking Alexandre Pantoja in this one. However, we haven't seen him go 5 rounds too often. Brandon Moreno definitely has more 5-round experience than him. Pantoja has shown that he does get tired in his fights because he is a fast starter. He does like to slug it out and bang. He has a lot of early finishes. If Brandon, now I'm picking Pantoja, but if Brandon can get it into the 4th and 5th round, we might see a different fight. We might see Brandon's boxing come alive more because there's going to be less kicks thrown in those later rounds. We might see his grappling make a bigger difference because, you know, fatigue is a part of a fight. And if Brandon is going to shine in this fight, it is going to be in the later rounds. So keep that in mind. That Mexican heart never fails you, and that's what you should be looking to see in this fight. So if you think this one's going to go over, I say you take Brandon. However, if you think this one is going under or want to rely on the past to make your predictions, Alexandre Pantoja, I believe, is just the more skilled athlete or has the more defined game plan going into these matchups. However, Brandon Moreno remembers what happens last time. You can almost assume that he is going to make his adjustments, and we never know until they get into this octagon. However, moving on to the main event, I am choosing Yair Rodriguez. If you want my full breakdown on that one, just click the link below. I will leave a link to the main event predictions. I go very in depth on breaking that one down, and I'll show you why I'm choosing Yair Rodriguez. I just think everything that Volk has weaknesses in, Yair Rodriguez does very well. He's a big problem on the feet. He's a big problem off of his back. I think that Volk always has a chance, and I think he's just all around absolute animal, and I'm not doubting him. It's just there's certain things that Yair does very well. It's gonna make it very difficult on Volk, and I think Volk's best key to victory would be boxing him into the clinch, getting him against the cage, especially for those early rounds, and trying to just drag him out, and kind of like he did to Jose Aldo. However, I'm choosing Yair Rodriguez. Think he'll land a couple head kicks, a couple elbows that are gonna hurt. The knees and kicks are gonna hurt. It's a very bad style matchup for Volkanovski, but if he can get through this one, you best believe that the current double champion in Alexandre Volkanovski is gonna be a champion for a long time. However, with that being said, thank you guys for stopping by my video today. 100% in breakdown, 70% in predictions. I say Nwadei MMA shows you the way in the correct way. Huh? Okay. Thank you guys for stopping by my video today. Thank you for supporting my channel, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. With that being said, y'all stay safe, y'all stay blessed. I'm out. Peace.